Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, boy, yes. It is the Wednesday edition of Vuka Nazo here on the Big Daddy Liberty Show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Remember, if you want to get in touch with us here at the BDL Show, do me a solid favor. Go to our website. That's an easy peasy www.bigdaddyliberty.com. And of course, please consider contributing to the show financially. As little as 100 Rand to 150 Rand a month is more than enough to build a subscriber base, if you will, that can help us fund great content here and, of course, hire correspondents. That's the please God vision we have for the show. With that being said, enough of my jibber jabber. How about we get straight into the news? And it is a jam packed day today. All right, we begin here this morning in Mtunzini, that's on the north coast of KwaZulu Natal. Ordinarily, a beautiful, sleepy hollow rocked by allegations or a story that came out of an alleged attempted rape of a 61-year-old. But here's the kicker. Here's where it gets even worse, indeed, is prior to the alleged rape of, or the alleged attempted rape of this woman, the man alleged to have attempted to rape her had raped her goat, or more specifically, committed bestiality on her goat. Oh. I mean, the story is disgusting to the point where I'm struggling really to even relay it to you, because my takeaway from it is really this. There is something fundamentally wrong with South African society when bestiality suddenly becomes an additional specter or possibility or occurrence that happens in our country. And bear in mind, it is not more than a couple of months ago where another video on social media had gone viral of a community questioning and almost inquisition of a man who had been allegedly raping goats in the area. So bestiality is clearly something that is an issue in this country, and to me points to the moral decay, the breakdown of our values as a faith, flag, family, and freedom type South Africa, when you can have these sort of cases crop up. I'm going to read very briefly from The South African. That's an online a news site which covered the story, and its write-up was as follows. Now, following the attempted house break-in, the woman was awoken by the sound of a crying goat, reportedly. Now, upon further investigation, the man was allegedly caught red-handed raping a goat, or bestiality in its nature. Members of the community then gathered at the elderly woman's home and took the law into their hands by beating this man to death. End of quote. Indeed, there are photos online of this very incident where obviously after beating him to death, law enforcement presumably had been called, and you can see obviously images there of a medical legal van or coroner's van, and a police combing the area, possibly looking for evidence and the like. As I said, disgusting as the story may be, it also does point to a failure by us. Those of us in society who are the sober, moral, prudent, and moral people in society. I mean, surely this person was known to the community. The fact that, the community responded as they did, and let me quickly say this, I'm not condoning the mob justice. I'm not condoning the fact that this community has taken a life. It's killed someone, even if he is an alleged goat raper, but it's killed someone. But here's where I want to sort of pick up on this side of the story. So, South African society and communities are feeling as though they have to resort to mob justice, indeed murder at times, because there is a failure by the judiciary, there is a failure by law enforcement to act timelessly and to act with the necessary severity of how in terms of responding to certain crimes. And it doesn't surprise me that some communities would rather risk breaking the law themselves by killing someone, by stoning someone to death, in what they will perceive as being a more just or dispensing a more accurate way of dispensing justice than the formal judiciary. Now, that speaks to a breakdown of communities and indeed the judiciary and the state, in effect. That relationship, pardon me, has to be repaired. And beyond it being repaired, communities themselves have to repair relations within a community. It cannot be said that this man was not known by the community that he has issues or problems, whatever they may be, whether they're social or psychological in nature, whatever. It cannot be said that this man was not known to have these sort of proclivities. Where were the families? Where were the churches, the mosques, the shuls? Okay, obviously not so much as shuls or mosques, but where were the churches and the religious leaders or the traditional leaders to actually say, hey man, there's something wrong with this guy. How about we intervene as a community? Why did it have to get to this point for there to be such a bad outcome, a lugubrious outcome indeed? Guys, we have to begin to help, aid, and support each other, good and the bad, insofar as saying we need to prevent and protect each other, of course, our life, our liberty, and property rights. But also, when we spot something as being wrong in the community, speak up, act as families, act as a community, so that you never have a situation like this one. So, in this particular instance, I must repeat this: I'm not condoning the murder, but I'm also not surprised that it happened. And indeed, even as I point one finger at that community, four fingers are pointed back at us. What are we doing to help those in our society who have these sort of thoughts and even proclivity to act in this way, in this immoral type of way? As we're seeing in some cases, it being normalized in society. People, for example, believing they can have sex with children as just a form of sexual identity. Or in this particular person's case, maybe he saw nothing wrong with having sex with animals as maybe his sexual identity. This kind of stuff is disgusting, and we need to speak up and reinforce our values to say, actually, we are a constitutional democracy. Some things cannot and should never be entertained as we protect life, liberty, and property rights. All right, back to Johannesburg, I take you with an update from yesterday's story. You'll remember, of course, I shared with you the fact that Johannesburg's mayor, a one Dr. Mpho Phalatse, who, of course, is at the helm of a coalition of various opposition parties that govern Johannesburg, is now in the crosshairs of a ANC EFF PAC coalition, who are opposition parties in the Johannesburg Council and are looking to dethrone or remove the mayor via a motion of no confidence. Now, this motion is potentially risky for Mpho Phalatse because it also draws the support from some within the coalition that is backing the mayor. That's a very complicated set of events here. Remember, when they removed, that is the ANC, EFF, and PAC, when they removed the speaker of that council, a one Vasco da Gama, dun 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 dun. Yes, I still find that name funny. But when they removed Vasco da Gama, who was the DA speaker in that particular parliament, they indicated that they did so with the support of some rogue elements from within the coalition that actually backs Vasco da Gama and indeed the mayor, Mpho Phalatse. So there's a very real risk, therefore, that there is a chance that Mpho Phalatse, the mayor, may herself be removed. Now, the update, of course, to this particular story is that the empire has struck back. That is, the Joburg coalition led by the DA has struck back by laying criminal charges, alleging, of course, a raft of allegations from those rogue councillors having been bribed, allegedly, into supporting the ANC and EFF coalition. A write-up in News 24 basically posited it this way. Now, the DA and its coalition partners opened a criminal case that is, against the ANC for attempted bribery. In a statement, the coalition partners said that the charges were laid against particularly two ANC councillors. The councillor who filed an affidavit claimed that he was offered 2 million rand to vote for that motion, end of quote. Now, you can imagine, 2 million rand, wow, that's a lot of money if you're a councillor. Councillors, for as much as they earn really well, don't earn 2 million rand well, and that would be quite a hefty bribe indeed, an enticement towards effectively going against your own rank. And it begs the question, there's two things that I want to quickly unpack here. Number one, insofar as the ANC, they have the ANC in Gauteng, that is, a desperate desire to get back into the echelons of governance and government. Why? Because the ANC is broke. The ANC has no money. Consider, for example, that it has struggled to even pay its own employees at Luthuli House. It tells you everything you need to know about just how broke the ANC is, and for a party that works and operates off of a patronage network where it pays cronies, connected political elites, and of course those who back it politically, for a party that operates in that way, to not have money in your war chest basically means they can see the writing on the wall of facing a drubbing at the next election. So of course they'll be desperate to wanting to get back into the echelons of power, and perhaps seeing the fractured nature of these coalition governments, they decided to try and drive a wedge by maybe pulling those few disgruntled councillors and saying, hey, here's a bribe, allegedly, for you to go against your own ranks. So, of course, that'll be the first thing which I would really point out as being a driver as to why we're seeing these sort of developments. The other, of course, is the actual political parties themselves. You have certain politicians who have ambitions that are far beyond the small parties that they're in. One councillor, Makhubele, of course, from COPE, who is the chair of chairs, under the coalition, the DA coalition, effectively, surprised even her own party members when she came out in a party briefing and basically said, hell, not only am I chair of chairs, now that Vasco da Gama is not here, I am the acting speaker. She basically apportioned that position to herself. Naked ambition for all to see, and ambition which places the whole edifice of the coalition at risk, indeed placing even service delivery at risk. Here's a clip I'll play of a press briefing she held yesterday where, as I said, she not only disavows being from a smaller party, effectively suggesting that she has no problem opening the front door for the ANC to come back into the Johannesburg Council.
The ANC is not going to come through the back door. The ANC will come through the front door exactly the same way that the DA came through the front door and Action SA came through the front door.
Yes, that councillor from COPE, a party in and of itself that is at war with itself, is seemingly breaking ranks and trying to maybe recognizing the flawed nature of her party, maybe even the dying nature of a party, is clearly trying to butter her bread somewhere else. That same write-up in News 24, in speaking about Makhubele and that press conference that she held, said this: Makhubele seemed to have decided to back the minority parties instead of the coalition that her party, COPE, backs. At the presser, she proclaimed that the removal of Gama was somehow a win for smaller parties. She's quoted as having said that motion has brought the so-called bigger parties to its knees. For the past few days, that motion has caused the city to come to a standstill. The role of minority parties has just been revived. The role of minority parties has been restored. End of quote. An odd statement for her to make, considering that she's talking about her own coalition partners. So clearly, it seems to me that there are some politicians within smaller parties, if these allegations of bribery are true, who basically recognize that being in a smaller party might not have prospects for them in 2024 and are seeking to jump ship now, either perhaps allegedly by taking a fat paycheck or a fat bribe rather, or B, being seduced by the, in this case, minority parties in the council, that's the ANC, EFF, who are in the opposition party. I shouldn't say minority, but rather opposition parties, being enticed by them to possibly jump ship in the hopes that when there is a transition of government, if there is a transition of government from the current coalition to another coalition that's run by the ANC EFF, that somehow these councillors will likely get plush positions as a reward for backstabbing their own party members. It is a toxic mix, which I'll repeat my analysis from yesterday, simply does not bode well for those of us who are hoping that these coalition type arrangements would offer a alternative and something different, and more importantly, something stable for governance at a local government election, at a local government level, with the view of the national government and provincial elections in 2024. A mess. As hulle sê in Afrikaans, die hele ding is deur mekaar. All right, folks, we end this one over there. I hope you enjoyed this morning's episode, the Wednesday edition of Vuka Nazo. Please do me a solid favor. If you're watching this on YouTube in particular, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and of course, hit the bell notification so that you are notified weekdays from 7 a.m. when the show is up. And with that being said, a reminder, please, that all of my social media details are in the descriptor of this video. With that being said, as I always like to say, I will see you tomorrow for another episode of Vuka Nazo.